Welcome back to another video. I am Scott with Techno Clips, and in today's video I want to talk about the Apple versus Microsoft double standard. So we're just going to jump right into it. So last week Microsoft released a bunch of new updates to their product line. They released the Surface Pro 6, the Surface Studio 2, But what we're going to talk about today is the Surface Studio 2. And why is that not held to the same standard as Apple? I know why, and I'll explain it at the end. But let me just read you through the tech specs of the Surface Studio 2. To start, we're going to go with the display, which is a 4500 by 3000 resolution display. Absolutely insane. Seeing one of these things in person is absolutely stunning. It's gorgeous, it's a real marvel, it's impressive Microsoft could do that, but just because it looks really good doesn't mean that it is really good at Apple. Next, we're gonna go with the memory. It can be either 16 or 32 gigabytes of RAM. That's okay. In 2018, you would sort of expect a desktop that costs a base starting price at $3,500 to maybe have an option for 64 gigabytes of RAM. I know Apple's iMac Pro is $5,000, but it starts with a minimum of 32 gigabytes of ECC memory. So again, not great, not terrible, but for $3,500, you only get 16 gigabytes of RAM and the GTX 1060, so that's not super exciting. But next is what I'm the most disappointed about, and that's the processor inside of the Surface Studio. It is an Intel i7 7820 HQ. Not an 8850 HQ or an 8750 HQ or the i9 8950 HQ or whatever. It's 2 years ago at this point, i7 7th generation quad-core processor with 8 threads, and it's a mobile chip. So in a desktop you're purchasing, you get a mobile processor from 2 years ago that only has 4 cores and 8 threads in 2018 for $3,500. And I know I keep making the comparison to the iMac Pro. Obviously this is a little bit cheaper, but the parts are substantially worse. At least with the iMac Pro, the base model has Vega graphics and 8 cores and a minimum of 32 gigabytes of RAM. So Microsoft is offering you a super expensive computer that literally only has a processor from 2 years ago. This thing wasn't released 2 years ago. This thing was released last week. It's unbelievable that Microsoft would do that, and I don't know why anybody's not complaining about that or not talking about that. The double standard between Microsoft and Apple here is just amazing. It's abysmal, it's crazy. That's why I'm making this video, because I'm so annoyed about the Surface Studio and why they're not held to a higher standard. Next, we'll look at the graphics. It features either a 6 gigabyte 1060 or an 8 gigabyte 1070. I'd say those are pretty good. Honestly, I probably would have liked to see either the 1070 for the lower end and then the 1080 for the higher end, but still better graphics than anything Apple puts in their computer other than the iMac Pro, so there's nothing I can complain too much about that right now. But then my next biggest complaint here is that it only features USB Type-C and doesn't feature Thunderbolt. So with Thunderbolt, not only can you have super fast transfer speeds between devices, but it also supports 2 5K monitors, a MacBook Pro, a mobile computer, and I guess this is technically a mobile computer even though it's a desktop because it's running a mobile processor, only supports 1 4K monitor at 60 hertz or 2 4K monitors at 30 hertz, which is kind of weird seeing as a mobile laptop from Apple and many other companies can support multiple 5K monitors. They only feature a USB Type-C. They don't feature a Thunderbolt 3, just the USB Type-C. So I'm not sure exactly why Microsoft is so against Thunderbolt, but apparently they hate Thunderbolt 3 and they won't be including it on any of their products ever. It has a 5 megapixel front-facing camera, who cares? It's probably good enough just for Windows Hello. And then it has Dolby Atmos speakers, 2.1 surround sound, blah, 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 blah. It'll probably sound pretty good, especially just coming from a smaller computer. I mean, when you look at it, it's relatively thin. The screen is, and then you have the base that's also relatively small. But then my next biggest problem, and this is a general problem with Windows and Microsoft-made products, is that they pull Apple-like moves, but then don't pull Apple-like moves. So they pull an Apple-like move by putting an old processor in a brand new computer and then charging you a premium for it. But then they don't even give you like free apps that you should get for free. So Apple features Pages, you have Keynote, you have that whole suite of apps that Apple will give you. Even iMovie, which is relatively good for video editing. You can edit most videos you need to do, just home videos and basic videos on iMovie, which is great. But the really weird thing is that with this $3,500 computer, it comes with Windows 10, but then it only comes with a 30-day trial of Microsoft Office. You're paying $3,500. Shouldn't that just be included in the lifetime of the computer? Like once the computer breaks, you lose your Microsoft Office on that computer or something. But that's absurd. It's $3,500. You're getting an old processor, you're getting a good graphics card, you're getting a decent amount of RAM, you're getting a decent amount of storage. Obviously, you're getting a beautiful screen. But these are all things you can get on so many other computers, and this doesn't run like Mac OS. This isn't like a locked ecosystem. This is a Windows computer. It's a computer that not many other things can actually do, where it's got that super high resolution display that you can color on and draw on, and I think that's the biggest selling factor of this computer. But to charge as much as they do, there are great drawing monitors for about $500. It doesn't have quite the same resolution as this, don't get me wrong, but there are very good drawing monitors for way cheaper, and you could build with $3,000 extra, have a way more powerful computer, and then have $1,500 to spare. So I'm not exactly sure why they do this. It seems really weird to me that they would put in a 7th gen processor that's not even a desktop grade processor, which makes me believe that the GPUs they put inside of it are probably not desktop grade as well. If they are, it's nice, but it's not a huge performance increase. But it's just weird to sell a desktop computer, and have the main selling point be something that I think has got to be a small market, right? Like the Surface Studio drawing on it, I could be dead wrong. It could be a way bigger market than I think, but it seems very bizarre to me that they would charge $3,500 for this computer, and it doesn't really feature anything that blows my life away, but I'm sure there are definitely a lot of people who are willing to buy it. But I'm just having a really hard problem with the things that Microsoft will just take away from you. They take away a 6-core 12-thread processor. You should have that. There are mobile 6-core 12-thread processors that you can get. And MacBook Pros, yeah, they can't cool at all, but at least they're in there. So I'm just surprised that Microsoft can get away with this and no one even calls them out for it. But yeah, if Apple were to pull anything like this, people would be ripping on them for the next 6 months until the next product came out, and then they'd be ripping on them for that. So that's just my little piece here. I just wanted to complain a little bit about the Surface Studio 2. It's a beautiful computer, don't get me wrong. I mean, I've been saying how cool and great it is this whole video, but it just seems weird to me that Microsoft can get away with not including Microsoft Office for the lifetime of the computer. It doesn't even feature the Surface Dial or the Surface Pen, although it does feature a keyboard and a mouse, but one of the big selling parts of this monitor is the pen. Really, without the pen, this is just a really overpriced, good-looking monitor that can run Windows pretty well, but again, it'll be held back with if you try to edit a video or something like that. It seems weird that they would design a product directed towards creators, but then not just give them the stuff to create the stuff they want to create, but then they have to buy it extra, but then no one complains about it. It's like the Surface Dial and the Surface Pen are great products that should be included with this, and Microsoft Office 365, that should just be included with this. Oh yeah, and 8th gen CPUs. But it's okay, you know, because it's Microsoft and not Apple. No one's going to complain about it. That's just my little rant here. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. Surface Studio 2 is a beautiful, beautiful looking computer, but it doesn't make any sense. It's way too expensive, and Microsoft is apparently getting away with what Apple can get away with, but no one's calling them out on it, so they're really getting away with it better than Apple gets away with it. So let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below. This has been Scott with Technoid Clips. Peace out.